All right, it is January. Winter has finally come to this part of Wyoming. It is cold. It is supposed to snow a few inches later today. It's mid-afternoon right now. You wouldn't be able to tell, but we have been having what is described as freezing fog all day. So it's pretty unique. You see, it's all white. That is not snow. It is frozen fog. Looks like this. I've seen this kind of thing before, like around waterfalls in the winter, or around like the thermal areas in Yellowstone or in Iceland, where you get a lot of misty water in the air that then freezes on the surrounding vegetation. But this is interesting because there's certainly no waterfalls or thermal areas around here, and it's frankly practically a desert. So there's usually not much moisture either. So it's interesting that there's enough moisture in the air to create this much fog and freeze like this, but it looks pretty cool. The dogs are fun running through the frozen wasteland on the way back from getting the mail.
It is a winter, windy morning this morning. Dogs did not want to come outside. It is super, super windy. I think this is what people were warning us about with Wyoming winters. Hear the wind. Oh, beautiful. Dogs not walking up too much. So we're heading down to Colorado to pick up Andy from the airport, and prior to picking him up, we're going to go to the RV show, see if we can't find an RV or at least get some ideas. Super, super windy today, as you can see by the just snow being blown across the road here. The roads are pretty clear themselves, but when big gusts of wind come and pull the snow, which again, you can look out and see there's not a whole ton of snow, but pulling it across the highway, and then as those two tractor trailers just went past, the wind combined with the force of those trucks going by, really pretty significant effects on the car here. Chris was looking at the internet this morning, and somebody asked about the roads in Cheyenne, and what they call them?
Ribbons of death.
Yeah, ribbons of death. So yeah, so here we go. So again, the roads themselves aren't bad. It's just this blowing snow, and I guess early this morning people were really talking about the visibility, and when the snow gets kind of blown across the road, makes for difficult visibility. Thankfully we're going this way, which we will see very limited traffic, and we're not in a hurry, so we'll just take our time. It is still spectacularly beautiful, just a kind of winter, kind of looks like a winter wasteland, but it is still
60 mile an hour gusts, I think is what it said. So.
Yeah, I tried to make a video this morning and was talking outside, and the wind drowned out my my narration of that video. So yeah, so I think this is the winter weather that people were warning us about when moving to Wyoming.
All right, so as we mentioned on the way down to Denver, we went to the RV show that was there um, over the weekend and looked at RVs for, I don't know,
15th time.
yeah, a lot of times now. Actually, we started thinking about getting an RV in 2005, I think, when we took our first big vacation out west, driving around, and thought, well, that would be cool to have a RV as opposed to just a Suburban and pay a bazillion dollars for hotels, which it wasn't a bazillion dollars back then. It was dirt cheap compared to what it is now. But yeah, I bought all kinds of books about buying RVs and having RVs and doing that, and then we never did it for various reasons. Mostly because every time I thought about it, I couldn't decide whether to get a trailer to tow around or to get one that you could drive. Because frankly, I'd rather have one. Well, at the time with 4 kids, I would have rather have one you could drive that I could throw them all way in the back and not have to deal with them screaming at me right behind my seat. But of course, if you had one big enough to do that for 6 people, it's not very maneuverable. And we wanted to go to lots of national parks and stuff. And at least at the time, right, all the campgrounds were like built by the Works Progress Administration and the Civilian Conservation Corps in the 30s. So they didn't accommodate big giant RVs. And so, would it be easier to have a trailer and that you could park somewhere and then drive your tow vehicle around to go see things? But right, towing things sucks. So, um, yeah. So at various points in the last 20 years, we've gone to several RV shows and RV dealers and looked around and ended up not doing anything. So this was our latest time doing that.
Yeah, so we it was a pretty decent sized show. It was through Camping World, so it was all Camping World people, which was kind of nice because then they weren't, I guess, competing against each other. But I don't know, maybe in the long run that impacts price. But anyway, so we were trying to, as we found ones that we liked, take pictures, and we eventually got it narrowed down to two. So one was a 23-foot, I don't even remember what kind, but that had a bunk set up in the back, which we don't really need at this point. And then the other one was a toy hauler, which we also don't need at the moment because we don't have a toy. But so we narrowed it down to those two and went back. And when we went back to look at the 23, we noticed that there was a 25 that was actually shorter than the 23, didn't have the bunk, so the living space inside was a little bit bigger. Then went back to look at the toy one, toy hauler, and determined that there was a lot more amenities, right? Like there was a lot more good inside stuff and storage in the 25-foot one. So um, decided against the toy hauler one. And
No
now,
toys, no.
yeah. um, so
What I
now,
liked about the toy hauler one is that, well, first of all, right, the point, if we got one, right, we're going to be hauling 3 dogs with us, right, which is part of the point, is to be able to go do things and not have to pay to board them or have somebody come watch them all the time. So, right, the toy hauler had essentially a big cargo area that they could be in without trash in it. And just space, basically big empty space that you could use however you want. And also, right, there's now the new ones, or I don't know, maybe it's done this for a while, but they always show them now with, right, you can put the ramp, part way down and make a
like a
big
deck.
deck off
Yeah.
the back. So that seemed like a nice thing to me. But since we have no toy to haul in it, and basically you're paying, right, for the beefed up suspension and ability to haul something else inside there, right? Obviously, for the same price point, you get either a smaller trailer or less amenities inside. And I mean, I have an F-150, but it's just an F-150, right? So it's not a Super Duty or anything. So, right, there's a limit to how much weight we can tow with it. So, right, we could have gotten one of those, but then if we put a toy in it, it probably would have been too heavy and would have needed to get a new truck. And I don't want to do that right now because they're absurdly expensive.
Yeah, so I think we have it narrowed down to the 25. And in terms of the dogs, two of the three dogs are fine sleeping outside of their crate. The third dog basically begs us every night to go in her crate to go to sleep. So it's going to take some work, I think, to get her accustomed to just like chilling out, right, without being in her crate. And if we can't, then there's enough room to put one crate, and the other two dogs could just go to sleep like normal dogs. Yeah, so lots of thinking and deciding if that's something that we want to do. So the show extends for the next 3 or 4 days, so have some time to think about it in order to get the show pricing. And yeah, so lots to consider.
Yeah, stay tuned. See if this is the time that we actually make a decision. See you later.
Okay, one day last week, Chris spent some time putting handles on the cabinets. Can't remember where he purchased the handles, maybe Wayfair. And then we got a super fancy little tool to measure so that everything was even. It basically took about 5 minutes to do two, right? So about 2.5 minutes to install one set of handles, but I've only had them on for a couple of days, but already makes a pretty big difference being able to use the handles on the cabinets. So super quick, easy project. We put a couple on the cabinets in the laundry room, and now that he's a pro, we'll put some in the bathrooms.
All right. Well, so our next thing here we got today delivered 20-foot shipping container to serve as essentially Christmas decoration storage. All that crap out of our basement. Christmas, take it down. So I really wanted to get a 40-foot one because it's money. Your stupid company has restrictions on the reason I have a 12 by 16 shed instead of a 12 by 20 because if it's under 200 square feet, you don't need a building permit or anything. If it's over 200, even if it's a shipping container, you're just sitting on the ground or on walks or something. They want you to apply for a permit and pay them and have somebody come out and inspect your foundation, which doesn't exist, and all kinds of ridiculous crap. So I got a 20-foot one. It'd be good enough for all the Christmas stuff. Hopefully, if necessary, we'll get more 20-foot ones to deal with this. Okay, so next project. It's a 50-degree day in January. Dogs are barking because I started talking, apparently, over in the yard. Um, so it's supposed to be in the single digits in the next few days, but today it's 50. So we use that opportunity to get. All right, I have to stop and yell at Teddy to shut up. So use that opportunity to get a bunch of the Christmas stuff that had taken down and brought out in the garage, moved into the storage container over there with the tractor, because who doesn't need heavy equipment to move their Christmas decorations around? So now one of the things I'm trying to do, she has a lot of different boxes that she has stuff in, but we're trying to standardize on these black and yellow totes that they sell most everywhere now. So we're trying to get a way to store those better than just stacking them on top of each other, so that we can get in and out of them without having to remove a whole stack if you want something on the bottom. So I'm building a rack for them out of 2x4s. There's various places online, Instagram and Facebook and everywhere else, where people have designs or videos about how to make them. So this is based on one that I found. I can't remember the name of the guy. If I remember, I'll put the link in the description of the video. But so yeah, it's just basically using 2x4s. You can see they had a big sale at the store on 2x4s a week or two ago for $2 a piece, 200 of them. So I bought 100 8-foot ones and some longer ones for framing for stuff down in the basement. But so I'm trying to get some of them off the trailer. I needed to get stuff out of the garage so that I get the lumber into the garage. Get these. We bought a sectional sofa for the basement once it's finished. It's currently sitting here in these boxes, so those need to go to the basement. And then put this lumber in the garage. And hopefully we can get our car back in. But basically using this. So the video I used was using full size 2x4x8s. So I made a rack, basically 8x8, that holds 24 bins. Unfortunately, the storage container is not quite 8 feet tall. It's like 94 inches tall, and right, this is would be a little bit more because you got a top and a bottom rail holding them together. So basically, this is supposed to hold 4 stacks of 6, but we're gonna do, and that's kind of how it's laid out here. But we're actually gonna do 4 stacks of 5, because I can't fit that in the storage unit or the shipping container. So I got a bunch of 10 2x4s cut 80.5 inches long here. And then, as this guy described it, you can do this without so much measuring. So you cut some spacers, 2 at 10.5, 2 at 12, those ones that are on the sides up there, 2 at 21, and 2 at 22. And then you can just use those to space everything out. So start with two 2x4s and 22 inches apart. So use that spacer for that. Once they're spaced right, then you got a bunch of 48 if you're using the whole length of it, 29-inch pieces to be like the rails. And then you'd use the 10.5-inch spacers from the bottom, and then 12-inch for each one from there on up. And so got these laid out. Obviously I have to move it because these are a full 8-foot 2x4s. So I'm going to take those out and replace them with the shorter ones I cut and remove that top rim. And then we'll get them nailed together. We're going to make another one just like this for the other end, and then 3 of them that have the rails on both sides for the middle ones. And and get them all stood up and nailed together on the top and the bottom, and should be ready to go. I'm not sure how much it's going to weigh, but hopefully Aiden and I can carry it over there. If not, I guess I'll try to get it on the pallet forks on the tractor and carry it over and then slide it into place. So that's the plan. I'm going to set up the GoPro and have it record while I do the assembly, and we'll speed it up, and hopefully it all goes pretty good. FYI, those bins, right, you can get them at Lowe's, Home Depot, most anywhere, and most of them are the same size, but as long as they look like these are 27-gallon ones, and they've got the top with the squares on it. We did get some at Menards, I believe, that also say they're 27-gallon bins, but they have they look the same except the top, the lid has a diamond pattern on it instead of squares, and they're different size. Like they're taller and narrower and shorter. Length and width is smaller, but they're deeper. So this rack that I'm building is for these because we have more of them. But obviously, if I was going to use them, try to put those other ones in there, right, it's not going to be quite right, the dimensions. So it would have to be just. All right, so got the frame assembled and stood up. It weighs a lot. There's no way we're carrying it over there, so luckily got the tractor, so gotta go get Aiden, come out and help me, but I'm gonna pull the tractor around. We're gonna put it up on the pallet forks on the tractor and drive it over to the storage or the shipping container. So it's, it's square. I mean, it's assembled square, but it's right. There's no cross bracing in it or anything, as it is now. So I think the guy that I watched said he put like plywood on the back of it to keep it more rigid, which is a good idea. I don't have any plywood right at the moment. So I'm trying to decide if I should just try to use some more 2x4s to kind of cross brace the back of it to keep it square, or if, once it's in the shipping container, one end of it's going to be, against the end of the container, and the back of it is going to be against the side of the container. So, two sides of it are going to be against something rigid. And then once there's containers in it, I think it should be good enough. Maybe if I go get some plywood or have some left over, some other project at some point, I'll pull it out and put some on, but it's heavy enough as it is, so no matter what, I'm going to take it over there and get it inside, and then if we need to put something else on it, I'll do it over there. All right, so we got it moved into the shipping container. Kim's not here, so Aiden and I had to do it, so it wasn't real convenient to video because I was driving the tractor and he was walking alongside, keeping it from falling over. But it's in here, and we got a couple containers in, so luckily they actually fit. The one on the top is the one that it's built for, from Lowe's or Home Depot or whatever. These other two currently here are just ones that she happened to have out here already, are the ones I mentioned from Menards that are a little bit different dimension, and they're a little bit narrower, so the lip on them doesn't necessarily, right, there's not a whole lot of support there. You got to get it right centered if you want to put them in, and it probably wouldn't be too good if it was particularly heavy, but that's all right. We're gonna, mostly it's going to be for these other kind. We can maybe put some of those on the bottom or on the top or something if we need to, but yeah, so it's going to work. So we should be able to fit 20 of those bins in this frame and be able to get in and out of them individually without having to unstack them all. So I think that should work pretty good. You see, she's got all these. She bought these QR code stickers that are on there, and bought some app that goes with it to basically keep a inventory of what's in each box, so she can, on her phone, scan the box and know what's in it whenever she's ready to decorate, so that she knows which ones to take. So hopefully that'll be convenient. So this is currently what's in here. There's whatever 4 trees there on the bottom and the back. Well, full-size trees. There's some smaller trees here too. A couple wreaths, and yeah, there's still a whole bunch of stuff in the basement that needs to come out and go in here. So it's going to be pretty full, but luckily it's going to be pretty much all Christmas decorations, so we should be able to basically fill it up and not have to worry about getting at things that are in the back when things in the front are in a way, because it's all going to come out at once and go back in at once, theoretically.